podcast. It's her fault, kind of. And like they still are like, easy, good morning, your day. And I'm like, you don't even know where that's from. You have no idea why you say that.
You don't even know what that exists.
You just
for.
do it because I do it. From like the bar I used to work at.
Oh my God.
Like Morgan, she's like 25. She's like, easy, good morning, your day. I'm like, hey.
Oh,
No idea.
Are we ready?
Sounds
Okay.
sounds about right for everything in life.
True story.
Are we ready? Okay. All right. Welcome to the We Shape podcast. I don't know what episode this is because I lose track and I have no sense of time. But we are here.
Especially when your kids are sick and waking you up all the time.
We haven't, I'm just going to be honest.
10 years.
We haven't slept in 10 years. We got
Oh,
two
man.
kids that are not. The first one was a horrendous sleeper.
Yeah.
She finally, in the last 6 months at 9.5, is kind of sleeping better. And then the other one was a good sleeper, but then kind of started to not be a good sleeper. And I feel like I'm in a space of I'm just going to surrender to it because the fight for it and the anxiety around it is it's too much for me. So I'm just going to let it go. I've survived this far.
Welcome to the show. If you're short on sleep, then no, you're not alone. So,
Yeah.
You also don't know what day it is. You're welcome here.
Yeah.
I just try not to care about so much anymore because I'm just like, whatever. My brain will remember the important things. And
Well, you know me, I always want to go straight to the depth stuff really fast, right? And I think that there's an important lesson there that fighting what's happening in front of you because you don't like it, it doesn't always serve us. Actually, in fact, I feel like it rarely serves us. I feel like you end up just fighting what is and getting mad and getting upset and just, and then what happens at the end of it? You either have to accept it or continue fighting it and suffering, right?
yeah.
One of my favorite little tidbit quotes that people share sometimes with each other is let go or be dragged. Because that's kind of just that's
Like
right?
that Seinfeld episode when like he's training with that guy and he's like running behind the car and the guy, it's like this like crazy old man who was like, come on, I'm your trainer. And Seinfeld's like trying to run. And then he's like, okay, you're going to
I
hold.
think it was George, not Seinfeld, but anyways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, anyway. And then he was like, okay, you're going to hold on to this rope while I drive the car. And he's like, well, what happens if I can't keep up with the car? And he goes, you lag, you drag. And I was like, that is literally my favorite Seinfeld episode of all time.
You lag,
Oh my God, that's a funny
you
one.
drag. I mean, the
That's
truth
good.
of the matter is, though, is it's going to happen anyway. And no amount of worrying or whatever is generally going to change the outcome.
And I think it's really easy to know those things and hear those things and apply those things when life is going relatively smooth.
yeah.
But I feel like we'll just jump in because I feel like I just want to share what a shitty week it was.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been like I didn't even want to do the podcast if I'm being honest today.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have, it's like you're going to get on and motivate and inspire. And I'm like, nope, I'm not in a space of that. But I also feel like we're just human beings and we should just be honest. And I was talking with Nina before the podcast just about how, we used to run a very financially successful fitness company that was rooted in targeting people who wanted to lose weight and make their body look a certain way. And a few years back, I just said, I can't participate. And everyone told me, you'll never be able to sell a fitness product if you don't do it this way. People only care about weight loss. And we still did it anyway. And Tyler and I self-funded the build of this product that was rooted in movement and biomechanics and connecting with your body. And we've been more recently like forming this community of people who are like joining our community and buying our product because they want to feel good and break away from these toxic cycles.
Yeah.
And, so we had this plan, we'll self-fund and then we'll get investors. And of course now, as we're in the need for the investors, it's like nobody wants to invest because the economy is so down. And I think that investors are all just like kind of freezing right now.
Yeah.
And so it just is one of those things where it just feels like, I told my friend yesterday on the phone, I said, it feels like the bad guys are going to win. And I hate that feeling. It's like, I want to do this thing. I want people to join our community. I want people to use our product because I feel like it's a turn in the right direction, right? And I feel like I've had so many people in our industry just almost laugh at me. Like, yeah, right, no one's going to buy your product so they feel better. They only care about looking better. And want to share how hard that is because you and I do not have infinite resources. We do require a certain number of people to purchase our, but none of the things that we do are for free. We have to pay people to be here. Building a product that's rooted in technology is not a cheap thing. It's the best thing for the customer because we have the most amazing customizable experience. And so I'm just going to share today that if you're listening to this and you believe in what we're doing, the best thing you can do is you can support us by using our product, because
sharing it with a friend.
It's like, I want to tell people, you know, like in a lot of ways we do vote with our dollar.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm getting backed against a wall a little bit since I can't find the investors, and it sucks.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just hard. And it's just like, I'm willing to do anything that I can do to keep this purpose going, because I do really feel a sense of, no, I'll stop at nothing. And I actually called one of my closest people yesterday who's almost like a spiritual advisor for me. And I said, am I crazy? Because a lot of people would look at me and be like, whoa, you are nuts for this financial situation, like for the amount that you're putting into this. And it feels like you're making some risky moves. And I just feel like my purpose and my soul will not look at it that way.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, so then the universe is showing up for you in a way that feels really uncomfortable right now. And what is it showing up for? Like, how is it happening for you and not to you? And I had this realization this morning that it's backing me against a wall to go like, do you really want to do this? Mm-hmm. And I do, but it's so hard when the rest of society is like, well, if you're not going to promise me weight loss, I don't want to buy your product.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be taken down by that, because I think it's super important that we pave a different way. And this is exactly why I didn't want to do it today. But anyway, I'm just not ready to back down, because I feel like I don't really care about my financial risk at this point. To be honest with you, our CFO is like, you're nuts. And I appreciate him so much because he just endures so many storms, and like, he is here for the mission. But, you know, I think that when my friend was asking me that question, I feel like I had, you know, like when you feel grateful for something, but you haven't been faced with the loss of it. Mm-hmm. And so you can say that you're grateful for something, but you don't really know until it's like almost gone.
Yeah.
I felt that today. And I was like, oh, that's what he was talking about. You know, like, what is the universe showing up for you right now? How is it showing up for you? Thank you, Connor. Appreciate that. And I'm like, I feel like it's showing up to say, look at how much gratitude you have in this. Look at this team of people that is here for you, and look at the amazing feedback you get from the people who are a part of this community.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep showing up for those people. This is a really hard week because it feels like the bad guys are going to win. I know that's like a shitty way to say it, but that is how I feel. I feel like the people who are going to sell the weight loss products and the people who are going to do the fad diets and whatever, those people are going to win. But I don't want to be taken down by it. So
yeah. Well, thank you for being super vulnerable right now about that. Like, anybody who's ever started a business before should know that it's a lot to get that rock started, get that thing rolling. And, you know, we have put a lot of our energy, heart, soul, finances, everything into this. And I think you and I are on the same page. Like, we really want our daughters to grow up in a different world where people aren't feeling pressure constantly to look a different way so that they can find happiness, right? I'm really aligned with that. And also, you know, like we've talked about this before, but like you said, we were a part of the industry and we didn't know any better. You know, that's the hardest part, is just recognizing that there's actions you take out of the conditioning that society has brought you. And then once you realize that, how do you do better? And that's what we're trying to do here, is just show up and do better and change the narrative. And, you know, I don't know. I'm in a weird space on this one because for some reason I feel really peaceful. And I'm like, the bad guys aren't going to win. I'm sorry. They're just not. And I don't know why I feel that and know that, but I just know that.
It's weird. I'm usually the real,
That's so true.
I'm usually the one who's like, but I'm not going to be a victim of this, but I'm not going to pretend that it's not hard.
Yeah. It's hard. For sure. It's very hard.
To, build a company, hand select a team, to all of the intricate pieces.
And do it in a way that's difficult. When we made this decision, and you said, Tyler, we're going to do this in a way where we're not going to use any of the, like marketing hoopla methods that we've gotten good at in the past. I knew it was going to be a monumental task, but what makes me most happy right now is that, our business actually has really incredibly healthy numbers. The people inside are becoming raving fans.
The community is like, whenever I do a community
what we're
call,
talking about.
I'm like, sell everything. Like, I'll just these people are so inspirational for me.
And honestly, the thing that I'm most excited about is the message that we're putting out there that is resonating, that is getting people to come try us out in the first place is like, hey, are you sick of stepping on the scale and feeling bad about yourself? Hey, are you sick of workouts that feel like they aren't made for you, right? Let us make you a personalized workout and show you how to love your body instead of feel pressure to change it. And for a message like that to be resonating to the degree that it is, gives me a lot of hope that people are fed up, man. How many times can we do a diet and end up in the same position? How many times can we do a workout program thinking it is going to change the way we look and just get kicked to the curb over and over again? People are waking up to the reality that this is not a short-term fix to try and look a different way to make yourself feel happy. This is something that we all should be doing to care for ourselves.
Well, and I mean, I think I was sharing with you the other day that I really want people to understand 3 things when they buy our product. 1, I need people to stop and evaluate their intention and their why, right?
Big time.
And we even ask that in the product, and there's a space where people can write about that. And I often say, once you ask yourself that question and you get the answer, then ask it 4 more times after that, because then it gets to the real why.
Yeah.
And then the second thing I want them to know is use our product in a way that's meaningful for you. I am not your expert. If you need to use our product twice a week for 10 minutes, that's how you use it. There is no bad or good or right or wrong. It's just use it in a way that's meaningful for you. And then the third thing is cling to our community. You are not going to be able to stand alone in this idea that you're going to bring awareness to toxic weight loss culture and connect with your body and how you feel by yourself. We need each other in this community to come together and share our struggles, share our small successes, our small wins. And I say small wins because it's rarely ever huge wins. It's tiny little things.
Tiny little things make a huge difference.
And so that's what I want people to understand is why are you doing this? Please use our product in a way that feels meaningful for you. There's no right or wrong. And connect with our community. One of my goals by the end of the year is to add more community calls, because every time we have those Zoom calls with our community members, people just feel so inspired and vulnerable and real. And I think that it takes that collaborative effort to come together and say, we are so sick of feeling like shit about ourselves. We want to come together as a community and pave a new way, but we need a community of like-minded people to do that. And I think one of my biggest weaknesses is that, I always hold it together and I never ask for help.
Yeah.
And
it's so important to ask for help.
This is a time for me to say, if you're in our community, we actually do need your support. This is a startup company. This is not a fully off the ground company. And if you believe in this mission and you believe in some of the things we're talking about, join our community. Help us get this, business kickstarted so that we can keep going, because the thought of stopping is I just melt into a puddle on the floor. So I am going to go outside of my comfort zone and ask people that if they believe in what we're doing, the best way that they can support us is to go to WeShape.com and join our community and use our product to better their life.
And if you like it, tell your friends, right? And that's it. That's all we can do at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Spread the word.
Because I mean, I feel like sometimes, people are like, oh, you need investors. And I'm like, we probably do. But like, there's more than one ways to solve a problem.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So I'm going to like maybe go against the grain and say I'm grateful if investors want to invest. But that hasn't been working so far given the market. So I'm like, I'm going to take a different approach and I'm going to just share our message and hope that people resonate. And I do really believe that people are over. They're just done with the way that they were before. In fact, I wanted to talk today about how, in our product, when we originally designed it, we had this like My Progress tab where you could like see how many workouts you were doing. And I actually told our designer and the people who are building the technology, I want to take that out because I feel like you can just get like neurotic and then you can be like, oh, I only did one workout last week. And I'm like,
feeling bad about yourself.
That is not going to help people feel better. And like the number of workouts that you do don't even necessarily contribute to that anyway. So our team came together and said, what are the things that we feel are the most important things? I mean, there's a lot of things that can make people feel good, but like let's simplify and like what are some things that we can start with? So we came up with 4 different things, which is energy, sleep, pain, and confidence. Like if we could be focusing on those 4 things, then we really do believe that by tracking those things, people could, people like to track things. So I was like, okay, we can track something, but I don't want to track how many workouts people are doing. I want to shift the focus to how we're sleeping, how we're feeling, what's our energy levels, like are we feeling better about ourselves? And so before the new year, we're actually going to have this tab in the product that says feeling good. It has a little heart icon and you click on it. And every month you can actually take a quick quiz that's like, how'd you feel last month at the end of the month? Yeah. And then you can kind of have that as a reminder. Oh, last month, man, I didn't sleep so great. And so it's like going into the next month, you can just have this mindfulness awareness that like focusing on sleep priorities could maybe help you feel a little bit better, right? So it's kind of shifting the focus. The other thing that the head of our marketing team was doing was we tried it this quarter. I said, why don't, everyone wants to do challenges. And I'm like, okay, well, we can do a challenge, but like, I want it focused on different things. Yeah. And so we did like a feel good challenge where people were focusing on those 4 things. And a lot of people really resonated with that. So I had a lot of hope for that. So come the new year, we're actually asking people to join like a feel good challenge where we're focusing on different intentions and we're actually telling people to not set New Year's resolutions and to bail on their scale. Yeah. And I know people think I'm crazy for this, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, throw your scale away and focus on something else. If you've already done that for decades, we can all probably say it didn't work.
That's the reality of this. People have been doing this for decades and decades and decades. And every time they step on that scale, they look down and they feel lousy about themselves, right? And why do we keep torturing ourselves? And at the end of the day, like, this is a number on a little machine that's making you feel bad. And you're unique. I'm sorry. You're unique. Your body's unique. Your bone structure is unique. The muscle mass you carry is unique. The water weight you carry is unique, right? So how the hell is somebody going to give you a number and say, this is the number that you should be to feel happy about yourself? It's absolute crock of shit. I'm sorry. And people need to bail on their scale. And what did I say the other day, Connor? Oh, bail on their scale, get out of weight loss jail, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a rhymer. That's just who I am. But I think it's just so important.
Okay,
for
Dr.
people
Seuss.
Yeah. Thanks for your commentary today.
I'm going to go.
But no, it's such an important message. And you said something really powerful earlier. I just wanted to rewind back on super quick. You said like community. And I was on one of the community calls yesterday and our topic was like self-talk, negative self-talk. And we had about 50 or 60 people on the call. And we kind of opened up the floor just to say, hey, where have you noticed yourself talking poorly about yourself? And what tools have you done to change that? And some beautiful things came about. Like people were sharing, hey, I noticed myself judging myself. And then I forced myself to give myself 2 compliments instead, which is something that I know you said as well. A lot of imagining it as your friend, like if your friend was talking bad about themselves, and we talked about that on the podcast too. But what was most striking to me was that every single person on that call judged the crap out of themselves. Every single one of them. And they felt bad when they self-sabotaged. They felt bad when they made mistakes. They felt bad when they didn't look the way they think they should look. And the solution to all of that is letting go of who you believe you should be based on what you've learned, and start just loving yourself for who you are right now. And it was just amazing to see people say, I look in the mirror and how do I find something that I like about myself? And I'm like, you got a pretty good smile. Why don't you start there? You know, and then they smile and then they laugh and then they feel good about themselves. And it's just this amazing community where we can remind people that sometimes it starts with something really simple, just appreciating the simple parts of yourself, or the parts of yourself that are easy to appreciate, not the parts that you're having a hard time with, and slowly working your way through things that are more and more difficult to appreciate until you really, really embody who you are. And I think that's something that, at least I think society is trending that way. People just wanting to be themselves and not feel punished because of that.
Yeah. Well, even though it's been a rough week, I'm glad I came today, just to share the honest truth about the challenges that we face building a company that's a little bit against the grain, a lot against the grain, honestly. And I'm going to stick and cling to hope. And I hope many of you join us in this mission, because I think that we're all tired of, if we really sit with it, the past has not served us, and it is time to make a change. And we're not going to get it perfect, but I'm still breaking down my own beliefs and my own stuff around this. But doesn't mean I'm like have a PhD in toxic weight loss culture and self-image to make this movement happen. So I'm not going to aim for perfectionism. I'm going to aim for progress.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to do today. And that's all I can do.
Progress, not perfection. That's a good one. I like it. Cool.
So let's go. Nina and I met before this with Connor and said, what are we going to talk about today? So sorry for getting a little off topic, but I do want to talk a little bit today about like body.
Sorry, I want to say one thing really quick. Don't apologize for being real. Like, the world needs people who are willing to be real and vulnerable in front of an audience. I'm sorry, that's the truth.
Well, that happened today.
Hey, there we are.
So...
No, I mean, I feel like so much of the pain that we suffer through comes from the fear of being our authentic selves because of the fear of being judged. And I just want to make sure that if we're up here being real, that we're not going to apologize for it. We're not going to say, I'm sorry, I was being real right there. So don't be small like that. Okay?
I'll try.
All right.
So, yeah, I want to talk today a little bit about, a lot of us in the company have actually been reading the book, You Are Not a Before Picture by Alex Light. Wonderful book. And she talks a lot about the misconceptions around body fat percentage and the terrible BMI tool that is used as a way of, classifying people incorrectly. So I want to talk a little bit about BMI. Tyler, you've worked with a lot of clients for many years, and I want to know if you can give us a brief overview about what BMI is and where the major shortcomings are.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is going to be an interesting topic, and I'm completely unprepared to talk about this. So I'm going to shoot from the hip a little bit here. So forgive me if I go down a pathway that may take some twists and turns. That's how I like to roll. So
I know, but you know about this topic.
Yeah, no. So what I wanted to touch on really first is, at the end of the day, mostly doctors, healthcare companies, insurance companies use BMI as a metric to determine your risk factors for heart disease, diabetes, death, etc. Right? And I think it's one of the worst measures of your health that someone could possibly use, because at the end of the day, it's purely based on your height and your weight. That's it. And so if someone has a larger frame, more muscle mass naturally, you can be obese in that category, but you can be incredibly athletic and fit, and your blood numbers and everything can be incredible. But according to the insurance companies and the doctors and stuff like that, your BMI is totally off.
And then therefore, the diagnosis and the care and the treatment that you get will be altered. And I want to point this out. I don't know if you're at this place in the book, but she talks about the misconceptions around even higher body fat percentages being linked to quote unquote unhealthy. And so I feel like we should just say that a lot of the science around this is outdated, and that we are classifying things that we thought we knew, like, incorrectly. And so I want to be mindful that, like, some of the science that we have even ourselves subscribed to in the past is not as relevant as we think.
Yeah.
So I want to hold that space.
I got to comment on this one, really, because this is important, right? People think of health as like a six-pack, right? I can go downtown right here and find a crackhead with six-pack. I'm sorry. That is the truth, okay? Does that mean that person's healthy? No. What does health really mean? It means that your body is functioning as optimally as it can, right? And so if you take somebody who's a bodybuilder or a fitness model, and they have visible abs, and then you take someone who's categorized as obese, and they don't have visible abs, who's to say this person, the bodybuilder, is more healthy than the person who doesn't have those visible abs? Because you know what? I've met women and men who are competitive bodybuilders who have insanely damaged their menstrual cycles. They're not able to have children after they've gone too far, losing body fat, particularly the women. And it's a misnomer to think that the more lean and ripped we are, the more healthy we are. But at the end of the day, what's really important? It's taking care of our bodies. It's how does our body move? Does it move pain-free? Do we have flexibility? Do we have strength? Is our heart pumping well? Are we getting good sleep? Are we able to minimize our stress, right? What are we putting into our body that's making us feel good or feel bad about it? And the more things that we do out of care, out of loving our body, the more likely we are to be healthy. But the problem is the measurements are backwards. They're the BMI, right? And even if somebody's running blood panels on you, there's a lot to be said about most doctors' blood panels that they're running on you. That's something we should probably bring an expert in for. But at the end of the day, I know a lot of times they say you have high cholesterol. We got to drive your cholesterol down with this notion like that zero cholesterol is like a good thing. Well, that's not the truth either. Cholesterol makes hormones. Hormones make you youthful, right? So you can't just take some random number and say this is categorized for all people. And I think that's the same with the scale, BMI, blood panels, etc. And it's just the wrong way to look at things.
I also think it's important to mention that there's a huge like energetic and emotional psychological element to this, because I know people who are experts in functional medicine, and they've told me that they've done the blood panels, done the diagnostics, done the supplements, done the nutrition, done all this stuff, and people still weren't getting better.
Yeah.
And so they were telling me just a little bit about how when they started focusing on other things, like did the people have joy in their life? Did the people have close connection? Those were actually the things that were shifting the needle. So for us to think that someone's well-being and overall health is completely determined by the body fat percentage they have or some certain blood markers, I'm going to argue that that's not the full picture. And I understand, like, this is not for me to say that people, if you're struggling with a health condition, you should just ignore it. I'm not saying that either. I'm saying only you really know. But what I am saying is that it's not the full picture.
Yeah.
And that there are other things. You know, I kind of like to use my dad sometimes as an example for this, because I've always found it fascinating that my dad doesn't really have a lot of health problems. And someone could follow him around and maybe nitpick and be like, oh, well, you shouldn't eat that, and you shouldn't do this. And granted, he's
making like okay choices. Right?
He does. He's kind of like I don't believe that he puts, and maybe he'll call me after he hears this and say you were wrong, but I don't believe that he puts a lot of energy or labels on good or bad. I think he goes, oh, I exercise because when I do, I feel really good. And I've shared this story before. Like, my dad used to not exercise. And then, given the space that we are in, he finally said, okay, I'm going to start exercising. And we used to run, like, local gyms. And we had built, like, a specific class there.
Like
and he would,
program.
he started going to the group training. And he did lose weight, fine. And people really focused on that. And he did pull me aside and say, I think it's great, whatever, that I lost the weight, but I don't really care about that. I feel so much better. And I was like, oh, thank you, And so, but my point is that, yeah, he does exercise, and I think he's somewhat conscious of the choices that he makes, but I don't think he puts a ton of energy. I don't think he diets. And for those
he doesn't beat himself up.
I don't know that he does. Not that I've ever seen in my childhood and into my adulthood. He has sort of this, I don't know, how do you describe my dad, Nina?
He's an angel.
That's how a lot of people. He just has this like energetic approach to life that's really rooted in a lot of like non-judgment.
Yeah.
That is kind of the one thing about him. He's not a really judgmental person, and if he's not judging other people, I'm gonna guess that he's likely not judging himself as much.
He's deeply kind.
And I feel like that characteristic and that sort of energy that he carries with himself, I believe, is why he has kind of been able to like not be neurotic about all of this food and exercise and stuff, but still be like a very healthy person in his 60s. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and when I say healthy person, what I mean by that is he doesn't have any blatant like, oh my God, you're in trouble here with your health, but also his
got
emotional,
energy. He can keep up with people.
and
Yeah.
psychological state. What I'm trying to say is I believe that his attitude and his non-judgment and his ability to hold space for self and other and kindness and attitude deeply impact his health, probably even more than the habits that he's built over his lifetime.
Well, that goes back to the whole start of like our brand, our podcast, everything. It's the intention, right? If your intention is to change the way you look so that you will feel happy because other people will compliment you, and you get neurotic about what you're doing and you get mad when you miss a workout and the self-judgment grows and grows and grows and grows and grows, like, are you healthy, right? Maybe if somebody looks at your body, they would think so. But inside your mind, is that true? And how much does your own version of self-love inside your mind relate to the actual health, meaning the absence of disease in your body? Because I think what you're saying is really important. You can do everything right physically. You can do the right workouts, you can move the right way, you can make the right food choices, you can get the right amount of sleep. But if that internal dialogue is judging you and judging you and judging you, and that's the fuel that keeps you going, you're on the wrong path.
Yeah, it's not going to keep you going. And I think that's why, yeah, I mean, I feel like he's right in his intention. And I feel like he has like an energetic component to him that he practices. I know that my dad has a very regular ritual, spiritual practice every day. I know that he practices a lot of surrender and non-judgment and kindness. And yes, he exercises. And yes, he, probably is somewhat mindful of the food that he's eating, but it's not coming from the place of like, I got to do this because I'm trying to avoid this, or I got to do this because I got to look this way.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm doing this because it makes me feel better.
it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And again, I think that he's had long-term success with that because he's not beating himself up and he's not letting that inner critic be on level 10 all day, every day.
But here's the thing that I want to point out. I'll bet you if we asked him that it wasn't always this way, right? I know your dad struggled with some things in the past, like far, far past. But like, again, the call that I was on yesterday with our community was so eye-opening because I think that we think that the end goal is to not have self-judgment. And I think that what's interesting is if we remove ourselves, if we say like, am I the one thinking the thoughts or am I the one watching the thinker, right? We separate just a little bit from our thoughts, right? We start to realize that it's not the thought that damages us. It's identifying with the thought as who you are that damages us, right? So I don't know what's happening inside your dad, but like at least inside me, I still have the thought, right? It doesn't go away. It just gets smaller and you pay attention to it a little less. And as time goes on, it gets a lot easier to appreciate the things that you see and stop focusing on the self-judgment, right? And I think that that's something that people maybe need to hear. It's like it starts literally with just that, oh, look, there I am judging myself. Is that who I want to be? Is that what I want to identify with? Do I want to give that thought power or do I want to give a different thought power? And it's a choice.
And like
right?
it's like you can even do, yeah, I would say it's his attitude that contributes to his overall well-being.
Yeah.
And he hasn't had perfect health or by any means, but his attitude, his approach to his health is dictated by his attitude. And that's what I mean when I talk about using our product with the right intention is like come into it with the right attitude. And I think that, I've always joked that one day I'm going to make a coffee book table of all, we call my dad Pops. of all like the Pops quotes,
The
you know,
popsisms.
the Popsisms, the like, you know, like he says a lot of things like progress, not perfection, you know, like when he's ever seen me trying to really, he's like, Katie, progress, not perfection, you know, like just one step at a time here, you
Well,
know?
I remember you asked him something funny, or like it was something really hard that we were going through. I think maybe it was some Ellie's health stuff that happened a while back, and you were like, "What do you do when you just feel like it's too much?" And he's like, "One day at a time, Katie." And you're like, "What do you do when one day feels like too much?" He's like, "Sometimes it's 1 hour at a time." And I was like, that's just such a beautiful wisdom to share with people, that like we don't have to get so far in the future and suffer because of it, and we can just take a moment and go like, okay, I'm here, I'm breathing, right? That one thing that I'm breathing should be enough to be grateful for, right?
Yeah, he
And just take it one
definitely
step at a
has an
time.
attitude of gratitude. You know, I did have someone earlier in the week tell me, they said, you know what worrying is, right? And I said, oh no, I'm like the
this was
classic, I'm the classic worrier, so lay it on me. And they said, worrying is just praying for that thing that you're worried about to happen, because you're like literally fixating on it.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, dang it. That hit me really hard.
What's the phrase? Energy goes where attention flows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or energy flows where attention goes. That's what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
So anyway, if you guys leave here with anything today, it's about small wins. It's never about overnight shifts. And I believe in the power of attitude. And I do believe that it really shifts the energy of your intention. So if you're going to buy our product or be a part of our community, know that that's the approach we're taking. We're not trying to get you to a certain weight. We're not trying to have you weigh yourself. We're not trying to measure good or bad. We're practicing self-acceptance. We're practicing connecting with our body. We're practicing how we feel when we move in our body.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to discredit that, like, exercise helps people feel good.
Yeah.
But we're really focusing on the attitude and the intention behind it. So, but kind of back to, you know.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I gotta shameless plug this thing a little bit, right? And I just like I don't know what episode we're on, but we don't really talk about like what it is that we're building at WeShape, you know. And I think that it's clear what we're trying to do as a brand, but what I get really excited about is that my original goal with this product was, how do we give someone a tool that feels like they have a personal trainer like built into their phone or, you know, tablet, desktop, whatever they're using, right? And you know, right now there's a few devices out there that cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that do a decent job at kind of giving you that personalized feedback, but they're still rooted in that insecurity you know, way of promoting their product and you know, making you feel kind of a certain way in order to want to sign up for their stuff. But what we wanted to do more than anything was like democratize that, right? And my own personal story is like, I got hit by a car. I destroyed my left knee when I was in my late teens, and I had to learn how to rehabilitate myself. And that was really powerful for me, because here I am trying to be a personal trainer in my early 20s. I'm watching all these other personal trainers. Who are they? They're ex-athletes who became personal trainers. They move well. They don't have any aches and pains. They're naturally strong, naturally fit. And they're teaching a bunch of people who are 30, 40, 50, 60 years old who have aches, pains, injuries, and they have no way of actually empathizing and understanding the experience that person's having. And in a lot of ways, I look at the injury that I had, and then later, you know, a little while later, I actually injured the other knee in a more severe way and had to do it all over again. And it taught me even more. And those things gave me such a deep understanding for what people are experiencing when they're learning to move their body and there's obstacles in the way. And I think that that's so important, because that's the way the product is designed. It's designed to meet you where you're at, give you movements, and we're very, very, very specific. We use the word movements because exercises are designed to pump your muscles and make you sweat, right? So that you can, you know, burn fat and build muscle. Movement is designed, we use that word because we want you to celebrate how your body can move. We want you to get connected to how your body feels when it moves. And when I started shifting my own style of fitness from let me do this for vanity's sake to let me do this to see what my body can do, to celebrate what my body can do, to constantly experiment with new things, everything changed for me. Everything changed for me. I felt better. And I'm just going to say the truth. My body changed too, right? And it's amazing to go, I didn't even think about that. it just took care of itself. All I was doing was becoming the best expression of me by focusing on learning to move my body better. And so what we do in the workout side of things is we give people those movements that are appropriate for them at this level. And it's a very technology-driven product that basically is able to sequentially load new video files in real time. So the whole thing is basically we give you a workout that's personalized to you. Every movement is selected for you based on your goals and your capabilities. And then throughout the workout, we check in with you just like a trainer would. We say, hey, how did that feel? And you can say, oh, that was too hard. And we'll make it a little easier for you. Hey, that was too easy. We'll make it a little harder for you, right? And so the whole goal is how do we create a product that is giving our members the best experience possible, feeling like there's literally a great personal trainer right next to you, making good decisions for you so that you can actually show up to learn how to feel better in your body. And that approach to movement and slightly progressing from one movement to the next, ever so slight changes to make it more and more difficult, is the way that the body loves to learn too, right? When we sophisticate the complexity of a motor pattern, that's how a baby goes from laying down to lifting its head to rolling over to pressing up to crawling to standing to walking. And I think utilizing that same philosophy within a movement practice is one of the best ways to connect with your body, care for your body, and actually show up so that you feel amazing in your body when you use it. So I just wanted to
Well, I think
shoot
it
from that
makes
there.
me laugh a little bit because someone the other day was like, well, what makes your like company unique, or what makes your someone like not available to be able to replicate quick? I'm like, the amount of
Tell them the amount. You remember the amount?
I
Oh,
remember,
God.
but
Oh,
the
this is good.
amount of complexity behind the scenes. So like essentially it's all three of us could log in and do today's workout, but it would be such a variety of combinations. So we'd all do a push-up, but it would all be a different push-up. And in that moment, if we said, ow, my shoulder's bothering me, I'm not doing that, it would in real time switch the level of that push-up.
Yeah.
It's like these micro movement progressions that train your body how to
Take
do
you
the
all
movement.
the way back to rehab movements to get your shoulder in
Yeah,
the right
no, my
place
friend
and
who's a
everything,
physical
yeah.
therapist and owns multiple clinics was like, if you need me to get out there and like approve this product, I absolutely approve this product. It's all rooted in biomechanics. I'll send my patients straight from the office to your product.
Yeah.
But anyway, in order for us to have the number of combinations of different exercises that people could choose, because you could because you could come in and say, my shoulder hurts, so I need we have about 9,000 video files with one trainer. So every time we add a trainer in the product, it multiplies that.
Yeah.
And so the number of combinations that we would actually be putting out there, right? The head of our technology.
Can I say it?
Yeah,
It's-
you go
it's so
ahead. You go
exciting
ahead.
For me. So
Okay.
he said yesterday, our head of technology was like, "Hey, how many different like variations of these workouts and these different edits and things that have we built over the last year?" And everybody took a guess. It was like, 500,000, a million, 5 million. I was like 10 million. He was like 50 million different
in the last
combinations
year.
in 1 year.
Damn.
And
So
it
we had
blew my
50 million combinations of what like each movement put together could be for one person's workout.
Yeah.
50 million combinations. So like when people are like, couldn't someone I'm like, good luck replicate. Like we have someone who runs all the production and content who has to get all of the logic behind how that works. We have someone who has to build the technology around that logic. I mean, it's actually really crazy. And this is why I get so worked up when I'm like trying to not feel hopeless about this, because I'm like, not only do I feel like we're rooted in a really positive mission, the product that we have is phenomenal. And literally I have physical therapists telling me, I will send you patients from my clinic once they're post rehab because I know that your product will be able to help them.
Yeah.
At the same time though, I could have a professional athlete coming in and doing it too. So it's like, I don't think people really understand the complexity and the behind the scenes of what it takes to build something like that. It took the team 2 years to even build the product.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm appreciative of the shameless plug because I do feel like people do not understand how complex it is behind the
They
scenes.
don't. I mean, at the end of the day, like it's literally. I've always thought about it like this: you're marrying a philosophy of how someone should learn how to move their body better, to connect with and care for their body, with a technology, right? With content that has to be displayed in a way that connects with people, right? So another thing that I did in Shameless Plug is we have this thing, I call it the visual teaching system, but we tried to simplify teaching someone how to move their body properly as simply as possible, right? And I'll give you a simple example of where this would go. Like, so if I want to stabilize the knee joint when I'm doing a squat, I can kind of lift the toes towards the shin, right? So normally like a therapist would be like dorsiflex your ankle to stabilize your knee and fire your tibia, right? And I'm like, how do we say that to give somebody who's just like totally new to this something simple? And I know I said I love rhyming earlier, so I'm so happy I'm giving this example. I said, we took a while and we got it. Lift your toes to your nose. That's it. I mean, it's so simple. So we try to simplify everything in the content, right? And then on top of all that, there's a brand mission that you can't fake. Like, go ahead and try and knock us off and try to fake that. You're going to be found out really fast. You know what I mean? So I think that that's some of the pieces that make me feel just like the bad guys aren't going to win. You know what I mean? Is like, we've got all the pieces in place. And I know that it's moving the right direction. And it's just going to take a few lucky swings in order to get us off the ground to where we want to be. So
we'll get there.
Yeah.
I do believe in what we're doing, and anytime I do feel discouraged, like yesterday was a rough day. And then you were like, we had a meeting with our CFO, and then I raced home to be with the kids, and that's the other thing, is like, we're raising small children at the same time.
Oh my God, yeah.
So
God. When I talk to entrepreneurs who are like, oh, this is so difficult, and I'm like, you are single. I'm like, you need to get the hell out of here. And you have 2 small children. One of them had Lyme's disease the last 2 years that we had to deal with. Like,
It's
oh
okay.
my
I'm not
God.
going to be a victim of it. I'm
No.
gonna show up for the lessons. But
Yeah.
So I left yesterday. I was really discouraged. I came home. Nina actually on Wednesday, she usually comes for dinner, so she was over. We're with the kids, and then I didn't really get to check in with you. Like, how was that financial meeting for you? Like, I'm pretty bummed. And I was waiting for you to come in the door and tell me. I was literally waiting for this. I was waiting for you to come in the door and be
just
like,
freak out like Tyler normally does.
you stubborn woman. You're trying to make a dog a cat, and you're throwing all of our money away, and I'm putting a stop to it. And you know what happened? We couldn't connect after the meeting because you had to jump right into a community call.
Yeah.
So you get in the community call. I'm texting you because you were like about 45 minutes late, and I was like, "Are you good?" Like, I was like, so you
Naturally, I just didn't answer my phone.
Didn't answer.
You
If you
Yeah.
guys didn't listen to episode 3, go
We
back
know.
and check that one out.
So you come home, and I was ready for it. I was like, he's gonna hand it to me today in terms of like, you're in denial. You're trying to make a dog a cat. You're stubborn woman, and you need to see what's going on. And you didn't. You came in the door and you just said, I had the most amazing call with our community. We're gonna make this happen no matter what. And I was like, oh my God, like, thank you for that. Because every time I do get on the calls with the community, the Zoom calls, that's why I told our team, I was like, please, can we have more Zoom calls? Because I need these people to come together. People need support. People need
People need support.
People need to have support in changing their attitude about exercise and about their self-image and about their self-confidence. So I was so grateful. I thought that I wasn't going to sleep last night at all. I made it till 4 a.m. I was like shocked by that. And I think it was partly because you came home and you were like, no, I'm not here to lecture you. All of the pieces are there. Actually, I was kind of giving this analogy to my friend on the phone last night. I was like, it's kind of like if you dealt me 20 cards and 19 of them were like the best hand you ever had, right? In terms of technology, team, content, product, like you name it, right? Even our business model,
Yeah.
right? Our funnel, our conversion,
Numbers.
the numbers are there.
Yeah.
It's just the cash flow. It's just the investor piece. I'm like, it's the one card, right? And I said, I feel like if I had like 80% of the cards that were a bad hand, that you guys would be like, come on, Katie, you're really like being naive and you're really in denial about this. But I don't feel that way. And so it is bizarre to have a meeting with our head of finance and to be like, you guys need to get investors right away. And I'm like, I'm not going to give up, even though that it's kind of like the ace of hearts. It's like it's the card that beats all the other cards. But I'm like, the other 19 cards in my hand are pointing me in this North Star. And it feels scary and it feels risky. And I feel like I'm going to have to just show up and do it anyway somehow.
Oh, man. I don't think anything amazing was ever built that didn't feel risky, that didn't feel scary, especially when you're choosing to go against the grain, right? It's not like we're coming out there and we're saying, like, we're just going to do more of the same stuff and with a new product design. It's we're going to do better with the product, and we're going to go against the grain with the branding. And we're doing this, and we've talked about this a lot too, Katie, like, I don't give a crap what I get from this, right? What would make me most happy at the end of the day is getting millions of people to start appreciating what their bodies can do, start learning how to care for their bodies. And if I got absolutely nothing in return, I would be so much more happy than if I built something that I didn't care about as much and made $100 million or whatever, right? It's not about that for either of us. And I know that to be true. And I think that changes the way you can show up in business when you're not thinking about what does this do for me, and you're thinking about this is what I'm supposed to be doing for other, right? So I don't know. It's going to be fine. We'll figure it out.
All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about today? Or do I need to go have another cup of tea and close my eyes for half an hour? I don't know.
Yeah, I want to say one thing. You came out here. You were vulnerable as hell. I appreciate that. I really do. And I appreciate you asking for help. And I bet anything that somebody's going to listen to this and they're going to reach out with some way of helping. And some people are going to want to try us out because they really believe in us. Some people are going to share it with their friends who are already using us. But I think there's a nice correlate there. And I keep going back to this call yesterday that I think that what people need to realize is whatever you're struggling with, you're not alone, right? Somebody else out there is going through the same thing. And how do you break out of that? Well, it's not by secluding yourself from the world. It's by being brave enough to go be a part of a community where you start to recognize others are like that, or being brave enough to say, I need help. I am feeling like I'm struggling. And when you do that, you know what happens? People show up for you. The people who you want to show up for you. And the people who don't show up for you that you might have thought were going to show up for you, then you get to learn a lot about who's really there for you in your life. And I think it's
yesterday
really important.
after, we had that hard meeting in the afternoon, I kept having this visual of like, okay, I'm ready. I kept seeing this cave and like it was dark and I just wanted to go crawl in it. And I had the visual and I was like, but that's not what you need to do right now. You need to accept how you're feeling about this. You need to share how you're feeling about this. And I'll tell you, it was much easier for me to want to just go in the cave and say, hey guys, I don't feel well. Can you handle the podcast today? But I can't ask people to show up in a courageous act around joining this movement and breaking toxic weight loss culture and joining our community if I can't be courageous myself. So I'm just going to keep doing hard things, even though it feels very horrible sometimes. The feeling doesn't have to dictate my action. And so I appreciate the acknowledgement and the gratitude. And I do believe good will come, even though it feels really hard right now. So I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys for listening to this
Woo!
episode today.
This was a doozy, wasn't it?
But I feel like we can learn a lot from each other.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for our next episode because we're actually adding in another trainer in our product. Our tech team is building that right now, hopefully to be released before the new year. Her name is Marilyn. She's wonderful.
She has an amazing story. Oh my God, what an amazing story.
She's already filmed all the videos, and so we're just putting the technical pieces together of her, like for her and the product right now. But she's going to be joining us next time. Nina already did like a pre-interview with her. I've met her a number of times. She's going to come up from Los Angeles and do an interview with us. So I'm excited for the next episode. I think we're going to cover some really good stuff. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.